الحمد لله أهل الحمد ومستحقه حمدا يفضل كل حمد كفضل الله على خلقه وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له شهادة قائم لله بحقه وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله غير مرتاب في صدقه صلى الله عليه وعلى آله ما جاد سحاب بودقه وما رعد بعد برقه أما بعد. Every single day, millions and millions of people and even animals, they fall into sick. They become sick. And the Prophet, peace be upon him, taught us manners, and he told us how to visit a sick person. He said, when one of you is sick, visit them. And in today's khutbah, we will go over 10 common questions that people usually ask when they visit the sick. And the first question is, what is the ruling on visiting the sick? The scholars, they differed as to whether it's a sunnah mu'akkada, meaning a confirmed sunnah, or a fard kifaya, meaning a communal obligation. An example of sunnah mu'akkada is the sunnah prayer after Maghrib, the 2 rak'ah after Maghrib, or the 2 rak'ah before Fajr. Another example of sunnah mu'akkada is the 4 rak'ah, the sunnah prayer after the jumu'ah prayer. If you plan to pray the sunnah prayer in the masjid after the jumu'ah prayer, then you pray 4 rak'ah. If you plan to pray the sunnah prayer at home, you pray 2 and you don't pray 4. So that's an example of sunnah mu'akkada. An example of fard kifaya, a communal obligation, is Eid Salah or Jumu'ah. It's an obligation for all the Muslims to pray Eid and to pray the Jumu'ah. The majority of the scholars, they say that it's a fard kifaya, a communal obligation on Muslims to visit a person who is sick. And the evidence they gave was the Prophet, he said, the rights of a Muslim upon another Muslim, and he mentioned one of those rights are visiting the sick. He also said, peace be upon him, that feed the poor, visit the sick, and free the captives. Because of these two hadith and many other hadith, the scholars have said that it is fard kifaya, obligatory on a Muslim to visit their brothers and sisters if they are sick. Question 2. What are the virtues of visiting the sick? The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, when the Muslim visits his sick Muslim brother, he is harvesting the fruits of paradise until he returns. The Prophet, peace be upon him, also said, whoever visits a sick person or visits a brother or a sister in Islam, a caller cries out to him, may you be happy, may your walking be blessed, and may you occupy a dignified position in paradise. The Prophet, peace be upon him, also said, whoever visits a sick person is plunging into mercy until he sits down, and when he sits down, he is submerged in it. The Prophet, peace be upon him, also said, there is no Muslim who visits a sick Muslim early in the morning, but 70,000 angels send blessings upon him until evening comes. And if he visits him in the evening, 70,000 angels send blessings upon him until morning comes. And he will have a garden in paradise. Question 3. Do we visit only those whom we know, or do we visit those whom we do not know also? And the answer is that we should visit people that we know and also people whom we do not know. Question 4. What is the definition of the sick person whom it is obligatory for us to visit? If a person is extremely sick, for example, he just came from a bad surgery, or he got into an accident and he is unable to move or come to the masjid or pray jumu'ah, or you even don't see him in the school or any other places, then it becomes obligatory for you to visit that person. If a person has a minor sickness, a fever, a cold, but he comes to Jumu'ah, you see him in Salah, then it is not obligatory for you to visit him. Question 5. What is the ruling on visiting a non-mahram man or a non-mahram woman if they are sick? And it is permissible to visit a non-mahram man or a non-mahram woman, but with certain conditions. Condition number 1 is that they both have to wear the proper Islamic cloth, and for the woman to cover the hijab or the niqab, for example. And secondly, they should not be alone. If you want to visit that person, the person who is sick, their mahram should be present when you visit that person. And third is that there should not be any risk of any fitna. So if there's any temptations, if you feel like there's going to be some temptation between you and the person who is sick, then it is not permissible for you to visit that person. For example, there was a sister that you were interested when you were in school, or there was a brother that you were interested when you were in school, and sometimes ago you found out he or she is sick, then it is not permissible for you to visit that person. And the evidence for this is that the Ad-Darda, may Allah be pleased with her, said, she visited one of the Ansari man who was sick, and this Ansari man was not a mahram to Ad-Darda, but she visited him when he was sick. Evidence number 2 is that Aisha radiallahu anha, she visited her father who is a mahram, and she visited Bilal, the muazzin, who is not her mahram, when they both were sick, when they first came to Medina. So Aisha radiallahu anha visited Bilal. Evidence number 3 is that after the death of the Prophet, peace be upon him, Abu Bakr radiallahu anh said to Umar, let's go and visit Ayman. Why? Because the Prophet used to visit Ayman, and Ayman was not a mahram to the Prophet. So Abu Bakr radiallahu anh and Umar, they visited Ayman. Question 6. What is the ruling on visiting a non-Muslim who is sick? It is permissible to visit a non-Muslim as long as your intention is to guide them to Islam. And the evidence for it is that the Prophet, he used to visit a Jewish boy, and he went and he invited him to Islam. And at the end, this Jewish boy became a Muslim. Also, the Prophet's uncle, Abu Talib, when Abu Talib was sick and he was about to die, the Prophet, he went to him and he invited him to Islam. And as we all know, Abu Talib did not accept Islam. Question number 7. What is the ruling on visiting the sick over and over again? It is permissible for us to visit the sick over and over again, but it depends on the situation. If a person is a close friend of you and he or she feels comfortable that you keep coming to their house, then it's okay for you to visit. But if it is a stranger, then it is better to ask permission before you go and visit that person over and over again. Question 8. How long should we sit with the person who is sick? Again, it depends on the situation. There may be some that is not comfortable with you being with them too long. So you come and give them salams, ask them how they are doing, and after a few minutes you leave, unless they ask you to stay longer. Question 9. When should you visit the sick? Whether in the morning, in the afternoon, or at night? And again, there is no specific time to visit the sick. However, some of the pious people in the past, they would visit the sick at the beginning of the day and or in the early evening, because of the hadith that the Prophet said, there is no Muslim who visits the Muslim early in the morning, but 70,000 angels send blessings upon him until evening comes. And if he visits him in the evening, 70,000 angels send blessings upon him until morning comes, and he will have a garden in paradise. The last question. What are the du'as to be recited when visiting a sick person? The two main du'as are La ba'sa tahurun insha'Allah. No worry, it is a purification if Allah wills. And the second dua is Adhibil ba'sa rabban nas washfi anta shafi' La shifa'a illa shifa'uk shifa'un la yughadiru saqaman. Take away the pain, O Lord of mankind, and grant healing, for you are the healer. And there is no healing but your healing, that leaves no one of sickness. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. We learned that there's a difference of opinion among scholars whether it's a sunnah mu'akkada or fard kifaya on visiting the sick. And the majority of the scholars say that it is fard kifaya, a communal obligation to visit the sick. It is obligatory on all of us to visit the sick, especially if the person is extremely sick and he or she is unable to move around or leave the house. We also learned that we should visit both the people whom we know and also people whom we do not know. We also learned that it is permissible for us to visit a non-mahram, man or a woman, as long as you two are not staying there alone, or there is no risk of fitna or temptation, and if they both are wearing the correct clothes. Also, we learned that it is permissible for us to visit a non-Muslim as long as it is our intention to guide them to Islam. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. We ask Allah to grant victory to the Muslims all over the world who are suffering, and we ask Allah to make them martyrs, those who passed away, and we ask Allah to help us to memorize the Qur'an and to preserve it. وَأَقِيمُ الصَّلَاةِ.